Hello again.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, today we're not going to do a pack opening video. I've done a few of those, I think, as my recent ones. I went to Worlds, if you did or didn't watch my recent Hidden Fates pack opening, which that set is amazing, absolutely. But yeah, I went to Worlds. I didn't compete in Worlds, I did the DC Open. It was great, a lot of fun. Coming out of that, we've gotten a bunch of great news about some new upcoming cards. I think it's from Altered Genesis in Japan, and it's going to be coming out in Cosmic Eclipse here. And, you know, if you think about the Worlds deck, the one that won Worlds, right? Mew and Mewtwo Tag Team GX. And I think a lot of people are still not fully on board with this deck because they are thinking about one thing that can shut this deck down, right? And every time somebody mentions it in Verbank or whatever, there's like 10 comments that just say power plant, right? And now this may not be you. You may not personally feel this way, but I think a lot of people just think, oh, power plant, that's the counter for this deck that we're fighting against, whatever. So I've been playing a lot of Mew and Mewtwo and watching the streams for the guy who won Worlds. And I've been trying to figure out, okay, what are the best ways, if you're playing the Mew and Mewtwo deck, to counter the counter, right? To counter that power plant when you need it, exactly when you need it. So I decided that I think it was important to take a look at exactly what power plant means, why a deck should actually think about using it, and if building a deck around power plant and greens, because many times those two things are together, right? You're building a power plant deck, you're also putting greens in your deck because you don't have abilities. Whether that is even worth it. What's the opportunity cost of building a deck like that? Without further ado, let's jump into it. Let's first start by examining power plant. Just from a theory perspective, right? From a metagame perspective, what is power plant really? Power plant shuts down all the abilities of all Pokemon EX or GX. For standard, GX is all that matters. And keep in mind, I'm not talking about anything expanded. I don't know expanded. This is all standard format stuff. But that's what power plant does, right? And so the question becomes, okay, why do you want to play power plant? Well, if you think about it, the reason that most people are going to play power plant is to try and make life harder for your opponent. That's all it's there for, because when you play it, usually it's not going to affect you negatively. And so when you're making life harder for your opponent, there's really two concepts to be aware of, two perspectives, if you will. One is making it harder for your opponent on your opponent's turn to do what they need to do. Now, power plant against a Pika-Rom deck could mean that they can't have that free retreat with Zero Aura. Power plant against Mew and Mewtwo is, I think, far more devastating because Mew and Mewtwo, your main attacker, can't attack, right? So that's one way, is it makes it harder for your opponent on your opponent's turn. The other perspective on power plant is that it grants you an ability on your turn to counteract something that your opponent can or is doing. The main thing here is Whimsicott GX. Power plant shuts off its ability to make you flip a coin, so you can just hit it for whatever damage you need to knock it out. I think one of these uses of power plant is valid, and I think especially in the meta that we are in now and a new card that is coming out, which I'll talk about, only one of those uses is actually valid. And that use is the on your turn. I think for almost all stadiums, you have to start considering that if the stadium doesn't benefit you on your turn, don't bother putting it in your deck. Here's my reasoning, is because it is a huge opportunity cost. You are playing a card that you expect to harm your opponent, but you are hoping that they don't have the card that they need to bump it. And by putting that card in your deck, you're not putting in something that will directly help you on your turn. That is sort of my belief on stadiums now, after having played so many games trying to think about this. So, why do I think that stadiums have to benefit you on your turn, and that's the only reason you should be putting stadiums into your deck? Well, there are just too many ways to counter it. And when I was thinking about Mew and Mewtwo, I was trying to think of all the different ways. The first of which is pretty spicy, but if you're playing a Mew and Mewtwo deck, you might as well throw 1 or 2 greens explorations in there. Why? Well, because your deck doesn't run anything that has an ability that would interfere with greens when Power Plant is down. The only card is Marshadow, which you just used. It gets off the field to get rid of the Power Plant. Boom, you don't even need to go and use the greens. Every other time during the game, though, your opponent is playing a Power Plant to shut down your abilities. Well, if you have a greens in hand and your Pokemon now don't have abilities, you can play greens, you can go grab a stadium, and you can go grab something else, whatever else you want, really. A Mysterious Treasure, a Cherish Ball, doesn't really matter. Go get any trainer card you want. It's actually a benefit to you in that respect. Greens is one example of an easy way that you could start countering Power Plant in a Mewtwo and Mew build. Another one is actually Reds. Reds Challenge allows you to discard 2 cards, and if you do, then you can go get any card that you want from your deck. This is a deck, the Mew and Mewtwo deck, that likes to discard cards. So this could be a 1 or 2 of in your deck to go and find whatever stadium you want exactly when you need it. The next and last card is one that's coming out in Ultra Genesis, and I think this is the card that really makes Power Plant a pointless card and a pointless build in future. And that is the Guzma and Hala Tag Team Supporter card. Now what this card does is it allows you to search for a stadium from your deck, and if you discard 2 cards, you can go get a Special Energy and a tool card, Pokemon tool card. So you basically have 1 out that works for certain matchups, which, you know, again, opportunity cost, maybe putting greens in the deck is a waste of space more often than not. You have another card in Reds that is totally valid. You just gotta hope you have things to discard, but it's only 2. And then you have a new card coming out in November that is basically like, okay, go get the exact thing you need to counter Power Plant, and go get a Special Energy, which a lot of Mewtwo and Mew builds use Rainbow Energies and Special Energies. It's literally perfect. So I think because of all of these things, I personally feel that Power Plant is just not a deck type that you should be building moving forward. There are too many ways for the decks that you are up against, where Power Plant matters, to easily counter that with cards in their deck that do benefit them on their turn. And I think in general, with stadiums, especially now that we have so much stadium search with Stadium Nav and greens and reds and Guzma and Hala and even like Acrobikes and Welders, so many draw cards out there, Naganadal GX, all of that stuff. Your stadium has to be an immediate benefit to you on your turn, or else it is taking up a spot in your deck in the hopes that it will disrupt your opponent. Not a guarantee that it disrupts it like a Judge or a Reset Stamp, in the hopes that it disrupts it. I think this includes things like Wondrous Labyrinth. Anyways, it's been a bit of a rant. I just was thinking about this. I watched a video about the Guzma and Hala card, and I've just been theory crafting a little bit on all the different ways to make Mew and Mewtwo sort of uncounterable. Yeah, so let me know what you think about this notion of stadium cards in general, and this belief that Power Plant as a meta deck is just not valid anymore. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just think that, you know, that is a losing strategy. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I will be on Twitch very soon, hopefully more often. You can check out my other pack opening videos as well, and subscribe if you like this kind of stuff. I'll be coming out with more sort of theory videos as well. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Carpe awesome.